So this is a good question, and my answer is Sukuma-wiki.
Oh, really?
Sukuma-wiki, cooked with oil and some onions. That tastes very good, and it tastes very similar to Japanese spinach, but more power in it.
Okay.
And I feel like I'm receiving more vitamins from it. So I like it very much.
Okay. Oh, I love that.
From Cairo to Cape Town, Lagos to Lamu, 54 nations, one continent, countless perspectives. Hi, I'm Waweru Njoroge.
Hi, I'm Njoroge.
Welcome to Panel 54, a global perspective through an African lens. This is the podcast where we unpack people, power, policy, and the paradoxes that define our time, with nuance, with history, and a deliberate commitment to context. This is not punditry, it's a perspective. It's not a briefing, it's a reframing, and it starts right here.
Japan stands at a pivotal moment in its post-war history. It remains the world's third largest economy according to the IMF and faces demographic pressures, technological disruption, and one of the most complex security environments on the planet.
At the same time, Africa is becoming a central pole in the emerging multipolar order. The African Development Bank projects that by 2050, the continent will account for nearly a quarter of the global population and some of the fastest growing markets worldwide.
Africa and Japan meet in that strategic middle. Japan has been one of sub-Saharan Africa's long-standing development partners since the 1960s, supporting energy, water, transport, and industrial development long before Africa became a geopolitical battleground.
But today demands new questions. What does partnership look like beyond aid? How do two nations, or rather the continent as a whole, navigate climate shocks, shifting alliance, and the pressure to industrialize in a world being remade?
Our guest, His Excellency Ambassador Hiroshi Matsuura, represents a country with deep experience in resilience, in reinvention, and diplomacy. So today on Panel 54, we explore the future of Japan-Africa relations.
The balance between development and geopolitics, the role of technology, climate and human capital, and the values that shape how our nations imagine stability, opportunity, and legacy together. Your Excellency, thank you so much for joining us on Panel 54. It's an honor to have you here.
It's my pleasure.
Before we start, I think Nu has a question for you.
Of course, it would be konnichiwa.
Konnichiwa?
Yeah.
So that's how you reply when somebody says konnichiwa.
Yes.
Yeah. That's a normal way.
It's also interesting because I spoke to yet another ambassador who told me that he was born in the year of the cow. What year were you born in?
Oh, my year is Year of Dragon.
The year of the dragon?
Yes.
Okay.
Sounds very powerful.
I know.
So if I was to then say, Ikaga osugoshi desu ka?
Oh.
How would you then respond?
Genki desu, which means nzuri-sana.
Oh, okay. So we learned something new.
Every day.
Okay.
Japan has consistently been among Kenya's top development partners. We're looking at, established its embassy, first of all, in Kenya in 1964, with some other embassies around the continent, marking its earliest diplomatic relationships in Africa. According to Japan's Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the two countries have maintained uninterrupted cooperation for 6 decades. Across infrastructure, energy, health, and education. Your Excellency, as someone who visited Kenya many times years ago and now returned as an ambassador, how do you read the evolution of this relationship across the generations?
Well, incidentally, the year 1964 was the year I was born. So I walked through the path in the same pace as the relationship between Japan and Kenya. So the first visit of me to Kenya was 25 years ago, as you said. I said, well, Nairobi is a very modern functional capital with a lot of green. And 25 years after, when I arrived last year, I said the same thing. Wow, Nairobi is a modern functional capital surrounded by a lot of green. But the meaning is totally different.
Okay.
Yeah. Before, the Nairobi was very pastoral, very limited urban area, few high-rise buildings, fewer population, fewer cars, and no expressway. But now it's very dynamic, much more dynamic, and the level of dynamism is perhaps different by 2 digits or 3 digits.
Okay.
So I think Kenyan people should be confident about your ability to manage this gigantic transformation of your capital.
Thank you for that vote of confidence. So if I was to go in slightly further on that same tangent, if you can compare, and you've just done that actually, if you compare Kenya that you encountered when you first came here and the Kenya you see today, which you've actually very eloquently described, what stands out most for you? Actually, what stands out the strongest in terms of now the aspect of political maturity, economic dynamism, and the social change?
I would say the prominence of the Kenyan innovation and the Kenyan solution to the social challenges, that is very outstanding and impressive to my mind.
Okay. Now, the other thing is Japan is consistently being amongst Kenya and probably Africa's top development partners. You've got JICA, that's the one, sorry, alone has actually funded major national water systems. They've funded geothermal, especially Okaria,
right?
The expansion of geothermal, and transport corridors as well. According to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Japan, Kenya has historically been the largest recipient of Japanese ODA in sub-Saharan Africa.
Right.
So my question would be this: how would you describe the modern Japan-Kenya or even Japan-Africa partnership beyond the traditional development lens?
It's a very good question. I think this change is here right now. You may remember August this year, we had the TCAT conference,
yes,
the 9th round of the leaders meeting. The main theme there was how to find the solution of the challenges of the world, not only in Japan, not only in Kenya, but we, Japan and Africa, join hands together to cooperate to find a solution to the difficult tasks of today's world. So this is the new dimension which now Japan and Africa are embracing.
Okay.
So Kenya and other countries on the continent are shifting gradually towards industrialization. We see that's happening. Talks of moving from a developing world to a developed world are in the mouths of many a president. Do you see a partnership that can evolve towards more joint ventures to help in this development agenda, co-creation, long-term planning? Do you see that in the near future?
Well, in the near future or distant future is a little bit judgment of subjectivity, but the direction of the things is definitely moving to that way. And at the basis of this direction, I believe that there is a fundamental trust by Japan in Kenya and the rest of Africa that the Kenya and Africa has a great potential to be resilient and self-reliant, and eventually you will be able to navigate your destiny by your own power.
Right. So looking at a time gone by, just 2024, where again Kenya as an example imported approximately $817 million worth of goods from Japan. You can mirror the same in many other countries. We're looking at vehicles, steel, machinery. It exports to Japan, however, about 69 million. And we're looking at tea, coffee, flowers, and minerals. So the trade gap is quite significant in terms of back and forth. So what does Japan make of this long-standing trade? It's an imbalance. What do you think about that? And is there a strategy to diversify any country's export footprint in Japanese markets?
Well, the trade is changing day by day, but the present day fundamental structure of the bilateral trade is that we are exporting machineries and vehicles, and you are exporting coffee, tea, and cut flowers. So the unit value is so different. So it may be difficult to adjust to the balance in a short term. But what is important for Kenya is to have the trade balance or trade balance, not only vis-a-vis Japan, but globally. If Japanese companies came and invest in Kenya, and produce the products together with the Kenyan labor force, which is competitive in the global market, African market, or Middle Eastern market, or the European market. That will contribute to the big trade surplus for Kenya. So even if the trade deficit vis-a-vis Japan continues for a little while, Kenya may be able to the trade surplus nation as a whole.
Okay, speaking of investment, could we at some point, I know you said the future is subjective, but could we at some point see Japanese supported manufacturing in Kenya? I'm sure some of it has already started within the continent of Africa, but we'll be looking at manufacturing geared towards exporting value-added goods back to Japan, rather than what currently we're doing, which is just raw commodities.
Well, I think it is possible. I mean, the Kenyan manufacturing quality is very high, supported by the high quality of the labor force and relatively low wages compared with Asia and other parts of the world. So that export competitiveness will come, surely. But to realize this, market countries have to open up their market.
Okay.
For example, the European African communities, it has a single market, common market.
Yes.
But it will take time and political determination to really open up as a single market.
Right.
Which is what we talk about a lot of the time. We have an issue with Pan-Africanism and whether we can create a United States of Africa. But like you said, you sound optimistic that we'll have.
Oh, yeah.
We do share some of that. We share some of that optimism. I want to move to something that Japan is obviously very well known for. That's industry, technology, and basically digital futures. So in essence, Japan actually remains one of the world's leading technology and manufacturing powers. That without a doubt. It accounts for a major share of Kenya's motor vehicle imports, and I'm sure the rest of Africa as well, and is increasingly involved in digital government. We're also looking at things like cybersecurity and industrial automation partnerships. So my question would be this: how do you envision Japan helping Kenya and other countries on the continent build deeper technological and industrial capacity, not just through imports, but through local value creation? I suppose it kind of links back to that aspect of Japanese investment in manufacturing.
Well, Japanese companies are very active, very eager to do this, because Kenyans and also the startups which are having projects on the ground of the Kenya have many potentials to have the further development of AI and digital technologies. So if there is a good match between the Japanese investors and Kenyan innovators, there is a big potential to do that. But the question is that these good products, the consumers in Africa are ready to embrace and accept, to use it. If that is become a reality, the growth potential is also very big, because the AI and digital technology are tomorrow's technologies.
Yes.
That will have the control over the death and life of our industry, both in Kenya and Japan.
Right. We see JICA throwing its weight a lot behind innovation projects that young people set up, or that organizations or institutions would need help with. What would it take for Japanese technology and some of these firms to see Kenya not only as a market, but as a base for innovation, research, high-skilled employment? JICA as an organization is supporting them anyway already.
Right.
Would you see that this could be a place to glean from as well?
Yeah, that's what I hope for. For example, the Jomo Kenyatta University for Agriculture and Technology, and the Kenya Medical Research Institute, Kenya Forestry Medical Institute. These are the trio JICA had set up from the scratch and groom into the high performance institute by now, so that many research projects which are promising are coming out from their researches, and the collaboration between those institutions and the Japanese universities are increasing as well.
Climate, energy, these are big issues for Japan that Japan takes very seriously. We saw that a huge chunk of US dollars to the tune of 2.6 million was given by Japan to UNDP, which interestingly headquartered in Kenya, to support its forest and restoration efforts. It's been a long-standing partner in expanding geothermal capacity also in Kenya, and these are critical pillars for Kenya's climate resilience strategy that we know. How aligned are Japan's climate priorities with Kenya's own ambitions in renewable energy, for example, in adaptation and green manufacturing? Are they in line? Is there something more that can happen for this strategy?
Well, I think generally the two things are aligned. The geothermal development, which is 45% of the total power generation of Kenya, but the majority of it is produced in Olkaria, and Olkaria was built by the support of Japan. Mitsubishi Heavy Industries turbine is daily spinning. Toshiba's turbine is daily spinning there and producing a big chunk, perhaps 30-35% of the total power generation of Kenya, and that hugely big role is played in the total renewable production of Kenya, and that gives a future for the power of Kenya. And also the reforestation too, carefully together with the JICA, has been very active in improving the tree species. Improved meria, which is good for semi-arid areas, but they are also busy improving the species for arid area too. And so pushing the campaign for planting. It's marching, and yes, and that is good for the Kenyan climate resilience. If the Kenyan climate resilience supports the stability of the country, that will be conducive for the Japanese investment as well.
Sure.
Okay, you've already mentioned the aspect of the turbines. So there's a lot of Japanese technology being used there. Can we dive deeper than what? I mean, it's very commendable in terms of the support that we've been getting, and there is aspects of partnerships. But can we move from project to actually supporting a systematic collaboration? Outside of the technology, we could also be looking at policy. I think policy is one of the very most important things, and also risk management.
Well, I'd like to mention a couple of things. First is the policy side. For example, the JICA is collaboration with KEFRI for projects, but also they are sending policy experts to the Ministry of Forest. So that the policy alignment will be perfect. So this is one example. And another example, the systematic development. The Olkaria has produced so many high-level experts on geothermal, so that Kengen can now send those experts to Ethiopia, Tanzania, Malawi to help the development of those countries' geothermal resources.
I know there's a project. I'm going to come to the next question, but I'm still sitting on energy. Waste to energy. I know JICA had funded, there's I think about 3 different rounds that JICA has funded for waste to energy plants to generate extra electricity. But for some reason they never seem to have taken off. Is it an issue of our side? And I say our side, I know there might be some issues in terms of how governance and policy, especially from a governance perspective, why some of these projects don't actually take off.
Well, this is not only Kenya's problem. In all countries, the question of incineration is there, because neighboring people never love the incineration is built in their vicinities. So that as the political consultation to pave the way for the building of the incineration is taking time. And difficult, politically delicate. That's same for all the countries. Kenya is not an exception.
That's good to know. So as of 2024, there were over 800 Japanese nationals living in Kenya, and an expanded number of Kenyan students, trainees and professionals participating in Japanese scholarships and technical programs. cultural exchange is quietly becoming a diplomatic pillar. And we had a few episodes about cultural diplomacy and how that's expanding Africa's footprint. How central is human capital development to the Japan-Kenya or Japan-Africa relationship today?
Well, very much so.
Yeah.
The infrastructure development for industry, agricultural assistance for agriculture. This is the one pillar, and first pillar and second pillar. But the third and biggest pillar is the human resource development. And as I said, that the JQuad, KEFRI are the three trios. But as you mentioned, each year 100 Kenyans youth are sent to Japan for the scholarship and the study at the college and graduate schools.
Okay. So then beyond scholarships, and what opportunities exist for things like joint research? You've mentioned some research organizations already, technical training, creative industries, and people-to-people links that enrich both countries. What kind of things could actually happen with those corporations?
For first about the joint research, the JQuad has been built through the cooperation with the Japanese universities. Now, the relation has developed into the higher level. JQuad and those helping universities in Japan are doing many joint researches, academic. So this is one avenue. The second avenue, the vocational training. And some of the Japanese investors are very keen to do the vocational training. Toyota, Yamaha, they are using their training facilities to accept not only the staff of their countries, but from outside, so that to produce the technically highly skilled labor force in Kenya.
And so if we look at security, we're looking at geopolitics. The world is bipolar. What maybe would argue more than bipolar, multipolar. I mean, at different stretches. And Japan's security environment is complex. It is. Maybe one of the most complex in the world. Regional tensions, competition among major powers, global supply chain. This comes into play as well. These vulnerabilities have reshaped Tokyo's foreign policy. Simultaneously, Africa's geopolitical relevance continues to rise in the world right now, no matter where we look at it. So how does Japan view the role on the African continent in this multipolar world where alliances are shifting every day? There could be something today, something tomorrow. And how do you ensure that regional influence is renegotiated?
It's a very complex question, but all diplomats are enjoying thinking about it. So in my view and in my observation, this is a time for great opportunity for Africa. This shifting alliances very rapidly, and also the very multipolarity of the structure of the international politics gives some opportunities for Africa to pursue strategic autonomy by swimming around multipolarity and approaching or distancing from various forces, and to create the space for moving independently. So in that structure, Japan will never change. Japan will consistently and persistently be the partner of Africa's self-reliance and empowerment and self-reliance.
No matter who comes in, that will always be the position.
Well,
coming
of course,
out of Tokyo?
for Japan's perspective, the two things are very important. One is to have a conciliatory approach, so that any conflict or friction be developed into the serious division. That is one important thing. But the second important thing is that we, Japan, as a nation, committed to a liberal international order under the rule of law. So the countries who are sympathetic to that view is natural friends for us. Japan is very happy. Kenya is one such country who is aspiring for the protection of the liberal international order.
Okay, so as to look at the aspect of values, identity and legacy, I'd like to start with a statement. Despite changes in global politics, Japan's engagement with Kenya and the continent has remained consistent, measured, and always values driven, as you've just said. Reliability, long-term planning, and respect for local leadership, like you've just said as well, has shaped its diplomatic identity in East Africa. What legacy does Japan hope to leave on the continent? Actually, no, let's start with Kenya. What legacy does Japan hope to leave in Kenya over the next 2 decades?
I would say trust. Japan will never flip-flop according to the changing the alliances.
Yeah.
Its approach is very constant and persistent. And we like to be accepted by Africans and Kenyans as such, as a very trustworthy partner for self-reliance. That is the biggest legacy we wanted to build in this continent.
Okay. So if you had to describe the single value that Japan wants to be remembered for in its relationship with countries, what would that be?
So there is one refrain which I'm always speaking to my Kenyan friends. Let me do it. That is, yes, in my view, Japanese and Kenyans have many aspects in common. Both are optimistic, have open mind to new things, respect tradition, work hard, and believe in ourselves. So we would like to be remembered as such. And we like to remember Kenyans as such.
So in the development world, as these meetings are had, you mentioned at some point, a TICAD conference where development conversations will be had. And we do hear about samurai bonds and what they can or cannot do for nations. So let's get into that a little bit. What actually is a samurai bond?
Well, samurai bond is Japanese banks lending of some money to the Kenyan government. The package under the present discussion is in the scale of up to 25 billion Kenyan shillings.
Oh, and that's the current conversation.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so what advantages do these particular bonds have compared to a euro bond, which we know about, or other commercial loans, high interest, paying back in different currency? What would be the advantages of a samurai bond?
So the one advantage is the interest rate is lower because the NEXI is arm's length organization of the Japanese government, which provides trade insurance, but in this case, it provides the guarantee to this lending. So that makes the interest rate lower than the usual. But the second thing is that it is denominated by Japanese yen. So at this moment, the fiscal exposure of the Kenyan government is heavily leaning toward the US dollars and the euro.
Yeah.
But by introducing this samurai, this balance is to a certain degree corrected.
So a conversation has been a lot around reforms or conditions for lending. As you mentioned, this is a yen-dominated financing, which for the longest time has strayed away from the very common US dollar financing. What kind of conditions do you look for when you're applying these bonds?
So the condition will be there because we are providing the NEXI guarantee, and that can under these conditions we request the Kenyan government to use at least part of the money for the industrial development, particularly the development of automotive industry, including the building up of the local supply chain, and also the increased efficiency in power transmission.
The approach in financing Africa has been discussed across the globe in very different, sectors and very different closets. What's Japan's approach to financing for Africa?
Well, the financing is still predominantly the private, the private banking financing the projects and the companies. But so far, the Japanese banks know African continent so little, so they are hesitant. They are in their calculation, the risk factors are calculated very heavily and weightily. But now they are starting to see the disadvantage of this, and starting to have a new innovative ways, particularly by partnering with African banks, which knows the African risks very well. They have a more accurate risk assessment, so that the conditions can be improved.
Okay, so now I want to widen our lens because we tend to be sometimes we be very Africa focused, but I want to look at the aspect of Japan, the United States, and the Quad basically. How would you describe the current state of U.S. Japan alliance?
It's in a very good state. The security alliance is very tight, and the political relations and trade and economic relations is also good. And the Japan-U.S. security alliance is meant not only be a defense alliance, but also the political and economic alliance as well. And that good state of the relationship was confirmed by the head of government meeting between Prime Minister Takaichi and President Trump at the end of October.
Okay. How important is the free and open Indo-Pacific vision?
Oh, very important. Now, this vast, important ocean of Indo-Pacific has many potential threats, such as piracy, terrorism, and hampering of the free navigation and free commerce, or the status changing the status quo, etc. So that to have a partnership as many as countries as possible to preserve and promote the liberal oceanic order under the rule of law is very important for Japan, but also for other countries in the world.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So what practical issues does the Quad actually focus on?
Well, Quad is a very has a very broad agenda, but we are discussing many topics and also implementing many projects, starting from infrastructure, climate, or critical minerals, and so on. But it is keep expanding. So I think in the future it will entail many more important subjects.
So there is definitely going to be more cooperation.
Oh yeah.
It's the only way you can take to go. So can African countries actually benefit from the Indo-Pacific security frameworks?
Well, of course. Africa is facing the Indian Ocean, and piracy and terrorism has to be suppressed for the African interest, and freedom of navigation and trade also have to be protected, and also what else? The maritime security is very important. So, as if the security arrangement over the Indo-Pacific is strengthened, the African countries will definitely be benefiting from it.
Thank you.
And actually, the Kenya-Japan cooperation for the free and open Indo-Pacific is already underground. For example, the cooperation for the maritime security is done between the Kenyan Coast Guard and Japan, and also the expansion of the Kenyan sea routes is being planned between the Kenyan Port Authority, Japan, in the shape of expansion of Mombasa port.
So we want to have a bit of fun with you now. Some of these questions you feel free to answer. If not, don't worry about it. It's not bad. But this is now to get to know you much better, Your Excellency. Here's a quick question for you. What Kenyan food have you grown unexpectedly fond of since arrival?
Without having to think too quickly, where would you go?
Oh, I've never been to the coast area.
Oh, really?
I love to go and to see the traces of the history, going as far back as in 12th, 13th century. By the way, incidentally, my hometown is by the name of Kamakura, which is in the eastern part of Japan. That was the old capital of Japan back in 12th century, 13th century. So that I'm very curious. In 12th century and 13th centuries, Kenya is in what shape? And if the coastal region will give some answer to this question, I love to go.
Okay. When do you plan to go? Okay. Well, if it's not a security question.
Incognito.
It's going to be sometime soon, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Okay. On the Christmas holidays.
Right, yes.
You know? Okay. So, and I think you've touched on this in terms of when we were talking before, but what is one Japanese value you wish more people in Kenya actually understood? One Japanese value that you wish people in Kenya actually understood.
So, one idea which we Japanese have strongly held in our mind and heart is that companies, established companies, are not only private companies, but it's social vehicles. They have a social responsibility to behave and responsibly sell goods, provide services, and play some active roles for the stability and the development of the nation.
Right.
So I don't know how to what degree it is acceptable for Kenya, but it is something which we think it, as dear in our heart. So
Yeah.
Because I need to point this out very seriously. So His Excellency was meant to be here at a specific time, and he arrived 2 minutes before time. I think that's one value a lot of us as Kenyans we
wish we
never
would
keep.
be able to
Actually,
have.
not Kenya, the continent.
True.
We're known as African timers because we will never. Although
It's
sometimes
become a
it's
phenomenon.
sometimes it's a cultural thing. Yes, I
Yes.
understand. But that aspect, I think, for me, if we could borrow from Japan that discipline of being able to keep on time, respecting other people's time as well. I think that's something. That's just my own personal take, anyway.
Indeed. I want to combine two, and I know that you know, but when we talk about a cultural habit that is in Kenya, or a saying that has stayed with you the most, and I want to ask a Japanese cultural question as well, but we'll start with the Kenya one, then I can go to the Japanese one.
okay.
So what one cultural saying or habit do you think that you've gotten so far that will stay with you for some time that you take back?
1 year was too short to
Still have some time to figure that out?
Yeah. But for me, the openness of the Kenyan people, the welcoming posture to foreigners, foreign culture, and embracing with a very cheerful mind and cheerful smiles.
Yeah.
Caribou culture.
Yes, the
That is a big thing.
The Caribou culture, that could be something you could note down.
Okay.
And the Japanese question would be that, of course, Japan is steeped in culture, you know, and my specific question is about the geishas. Do you have young girls right now in Japan who are aspiring to become geishas in the future? Or is that something that's on its way out, or is it still there?
Well, it's still there.
Yeah.
But I don't know about the long-term trend.
Yeah.
Of course, the geisha is hospitality service.
Yes.
In one aspect, but in the other aspect, they are trained in a professional way to
Yes.
play the traditional instruments,
Yes.
such as Japanese flute,
Yeah.
or Japanese three-strings guitar, etc., etc. So, as a social institution, it's difficult to stay. But these artistic aspects of it have some value to preserve.
Sure.
Okay. You recently you've been ambassador to Kenya for the last 1 year, right? If you are not ambassador, if you're not a diplomat, what profession would you been attracted to? I suppose the question is, what did you want to be when you were growing up?
When you grew up.
So at one point in my college days, I was thinking about becoming academic researcher on political sciences. But the academic work seems to be too painstaking for me.
Too academic.
Somebody after my own heart.
You're in good company.
My interest is keep moving.
Okay.
It's not stay to one thing for a long time.
Yeah.
Okay.
What is the one place in Japan that every Kenyan should visit if they had at least one chance in their lifetime?
Yeah, I read that question and I thought about it. And my answer to you is that you should visit Mount Fuji and also Biwako Lake. Mount Fuji is not as high as Mount Kenya. Biwako Lake is not as big as Lake Victoria, but they are beautiful, and we Japan regard them as beautiful for 1,000 years, and we developed and nourished our sense of beauty by watching them, and so millions of paintings were painted over them, millions of poetries have sung over them. So I hope you would, if you see them and see them as beautiful as well. But what I hope also is that by looking at them and appreciating the beauty of them, you will rekindle your affection to or your pride in Mount Kenya and Lake Victoria, and see the commonality between Japan and Kenya. So there are two nations in the world, both of which has a beautiful mountain and a beautiful lake. Yes,
Beautiful cultures.
Beautiful.
Actually. Final question. What do you do to relax? What do you do for fun? Do you have a hobby like golf, tennis, or shooting? I don't know. No, archery. Okay. Maybe.
Okay.
Well, my greatest pastime is music. My wife is a professional classical music musician, and occasionally she plays piano, and I listen to her. And I am a very bad practitioner of jazz saxophone. So the pastime
You didn't come with your saxophone. So we have a saxophone here.
Somebody can use it.
We have a saxophone.
Next time.
There's a whole studio here with a drum kit, but if we have a saxophone, next time.
Okay.
Next time.
Cool.
So jazz saxophone. I used to play jazz piano when I was much younger.
Wow.
Yeah, so we should, if we get a chance,
Yeah, let's do
I'd
it.
like to see how
How bad I am.
No, whether we can
You
do
can play, I'll sing.
She's a very good singer, by the way.
Wonderful.
We can do a collaboration.
Or something.
Yeah.
Your Excellency, again, it's been a pleasure having you on panel 54. We hope to invite you back and go a bit deeper in some of the things that we've talked about. Your tenure is how many years is your tenure?
Well, 3 years, 4 years, I don't know. But I expect that at least I have 2 more years.
2 more years.
Okay.
To stay.
So we'll need to have you back again. And then we can have a conversation in terms of development. I know there's going to be a lot of things happening within the continent.
Very soon, yep.
A few elections coming up. And we'd like to have your take on how things are progressing from that perspective. Yeah.
Anytime. It's always a pleasure to join you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Your
It's
Excellency.
been great.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
This conversation reminds us that diplomacy is not shaped only by treaties or trade wars. It's shaped by the quiet decisions nations make when the world becomes uncertain, and by the values they return to when old systems shift.
Japan's story is one of resilience, reinvention, and long-term vision. Africa's story is one of ambition, possibility, and rising strategic weight. Together, their partnership reveals something deeper than development projects. It shows how nations in Africa, built on different histories, can still negotiate shared purpose in a world that is constantly evolving.
We have seen how technology, climate cooperation, cultural exchange, and human capital can expand the relationship between economies. We have seen how geopolitics demands clarity, but also humility, and how legacy is defined not by moments, but by consistency of intent.
The question for the years ahead is whether Africa and Japan can build a partnership that is not reactive, but generational. One that moves from infrastructure to innovation, from aid to agency, from parallel priorities to shared intent.
If they can, then this becomes more than diplomacy. It becomes an example of how nations with different histories can still align their futures, and how stability, opportunity, and purpose can be built through collaboration rather than competition. You've been listening to Panel 54, where we rethink the world one African perspective at a time. If this episode made you pause, reflect, or reframe, share it, start a conversation, and tag us in. Find us on social media at Panel 54 Pod, and don't forget to subscribe so that you don't miss an episode.
Until next time, stay curious, stay grounded, and remember, keep the lens clear.